think we're live. Yes. Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Career Research for African Data Scientists Day 2020. We're excited today. Once again, this event is all about stepping away from your work and really casually interacting with other data scientists. And that's pretty much to be you connecting with other data scientists in the live chats, and you also learning from data scientists as well, and pretty much sharing practical experiences and going forward, seeing a way you can keep improving your career going forward as well. So it's all about your career here. It's not really about anything technical. It's really all about your career. So introducing myself, my name is Steve, the Port Harcourt School of AI. I'm the lead volunteer for the Port Harcourt School of AI, and I'm really excited to have you on board today. So if you're in the chats, please drop your name, your country, where you work, or if you're still learning, and also pretty much drop your LinkedIn or Twitter link on the live chat so that others can connect with you, and going forward you can form formidable relationships as well with other African data scientists at Loans to Go Limited. And he's going to be pretty much taking us through that, because it's what the salary scale is like, our practical experiences from an African data scientist. Olaleko Olesen is actually a technical lead of data platform at HRS Group, and he's going to be talking to us about his practical experiences as an African data scientist, where he's worked in Nigeria, he's also worked in Berlin, and pretty much what are the discrepancies, what are the differences, and hopefully you pick up very, very useful very useful experiences from very useful lessons from Olalekan's experiences. So we really hope you enjoy. So please drop your just connect with others in the live chats, and drop your name, drop your country, drop where you work if you're learning, and also drop your pretty much drop your Twitter or LinkedIn profile link so that others can connect with you. Now, I think without further ado, I think we'll dive into the first session, which is with Robert John. But before then, we have to take just a little bit brief break. Let's get to hang out in the live chat. So yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Should we proceed? Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Stephen, for the invitation and for the introduction. So I'll get started with what I might look for when I'm trying to hire a data scientist. Um, so I think that there are lots of factors. It's usually not very straightforward to hire anyone in any field. Um, so what I try to do is I look at the person's history, how much work they've put into themselves, how much learning they've done, how much practice they've put in, if possible, what sort of work experience they've got. Um, so in some cases, you're trying to hire someone who already has some experience doing something, and in other cases, you're trying to hire someone who's brand new in the field. So to make things easy for myself, I usually just turn to LinkedIn. So typically, yeah, people could send you a resume, but it's something that they might not have kept fully updated. But then again, depending on the nature of the resume, you might not have links that click through to things like repositories that they've maintained for past projects. Um, or they just might not format it to the, let's say, the best standard. So there are services out there, but you can't really ask everyone to want to use one of those services. So LinkedIn is a good place to start. So what that means for you as either a current data scientist or as an aspiring data scientist is you should try as much as possible to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. What you post on your LinkedIn profile is important. It counts towards what people see and how people see you. If you have any projects that you work on, try and link them to your LinkedIn profile. So you might have worked on something. Of course, it has to be something that is within the public domain. So if you're currently working for a company, you can't take the work that you do for that company and put it out there. You can't put it in a public GitHub repo and link to it. It's a violation of the company's intellectual property and all of those things. But if you're doing something that is academic, some academic exercise, maybe working on something that you've got from whether it's Kaggle or driven data or something like that, you should definitely make it public, link to it so that people can see the quality of your work. If you're working on something of that sort, then your notebooks should be properly commented. Commenting on your notebooks will help people to see your thought pattern. It will help the person who's potentially going to hire you to understand how you reason about problems. Now, it's not going to be the end because, realistically, and it's unfortunate that this has to be said, but people have been known to copy other people's work and try and get credit for it. So it would be a mistake for anyone who's hiring to simply look at your resume and say, "Oh, okay, I see that this individual has worked on one, two, three academic projects, and for that reason, I'm going to hire the person." There's definitely going to be an interview stage. And during the interview stage, what I would be looking for is to see a reflection of the thought patterns exhibited in your previous claimed works show up when I throw a task at you. So if you demonstrate a certain potential with exploratory data analysis in your works, Then if I give you a new data set, I expect to see you exhibit that same attention to detail. If you exhibit some skills in data augmentation, in something that you've published, then I expect to see that as well if I hand you a data set that lends itself to data augmentation. So simply put, try and maintain a LinkedIn profile. It's not cut and dry. Some people are just not into the whole social media thing, and maybe the best that they can do is send a regular CV or something. I'm guessing people make exceptions for that. But also, your profile should reflect you as an individual. It's definitely a mistake having a profile when you're not ready, applying for a job or making yourself open for opportunities when you're not ready, because what that will lead to is people setting up interviews with you, but finding out that you can't defend what you've published. And that's not a good sign. It shows that you either don't pay attention when you're learning, which is that, yeah, it's actually your work, but you didn't understand what you were doing. Or, potentially worse is the fact that maybe you just went and copied that work, that body of work from someone else. So yeah, I think that's more or less it about what I would look out when hiring. Stephen, am I supposed to go into salaries? Okay, right. So when it comes to salaries, I've found that over time it's a bit of a complex pot of soup, if I may use that phrase. So now salaries are more from the perspective of the potential hire than from the perspective of the potential employer. So what you need to bear in mind, or what you should look out for, is what the average is for perhaps the geography that the company is operating in. So what that means, for example, is we are in Nigeria, for example, but the world is global. So the company that is hiring you could be Nigerian, it could be Ghanaian, it could be Kenyan, right? Just to keep things simple. But salaries are not the same in the three different countries, particularly because if a Kenyan company is hiring you, it's most likely going to be operating out of Nairobi, which is the capital. If a Ghanaian company is hiring you, it's most likely going to be operating out of Accra, which is the capital. But if a Nigerian company is hiring you, it really could be anywhere. It's not always the case. In fact, nowadays we rarely have IT isn't concentrated in the capital, which is Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. You've got some companies in Lagos, but you've also got companies operating out of other places. I think Safe Boda is operating out of Ogun State, for instance. ULesson, I guess they call them ULesson. Looks like Micro Lesson to me, but they're operating out of Plateau State. So you could have companies operating out of anywhere, and so the salaries that they offer might not exactly match. But what you should look out for is whether the organization has a structure. And what I mean by a structure is the organization should be able to say to you, this is the kind of salary scale that we have. If you're coming in at this position, and at this position, whether you're a data scientist, whether you're a software engineer, or some other um, resource that falls into the engineering category, this is sort of salary that you expect to take home. But beyond that, this is what career progression looks like. So you've got a starting salary, but this is how often we do reviews. And when we do reviews, this is the next step that you expect to be at. Um, and after this much time, you can expect to go up by this much. Frankly, things are complicated depending on where you are, inflation and other things. So there's usually the question of, does the salary remain in lockstep with inflation, for instance? For example, we've got a 15% inflation rate in Nigeria currently. So if you started a job at a certain salary in January, by next year, January, is your take home going to go up by 15% just so that you can continue to afford the same things that you could afford? Clearly, it's not something that I can provide sufficient insights into right now. I think maybe people in the human resource space will be better suited for some of those things. But basically, I do think that if there just is a structure, then what you just need to ask yourself is whether or not you like the structure. I'm not a fan of individuals having to negotiate their own salaries for many reasons. Primarily, there tends to be a lot of secrecy in the organization where that happens. And while in the beginning people might think that it's a good thing, in the end, there tends to be a lot of blowback. What you find is that people then start to say, oh, no, that's a very discriminatory organization. And you know how it goes, especially if you end up working for a company that is founded by, let's say, foreigners or Caucasians and things like that. It always boils back to the whole Caucasian versus black versus colored individuals. So, people don't say, oh, okay, well, it was because we allowed for people to negotiate their salaries individually. Instead, it becomes a case of, mixed standards, double standards, and stuff like that. So I'm really not a fan of, saying each individual should negotiate to the best of their abilities. Some people like that, but I don't. So I prefer openness and transparency. Everyone at this level earns the same amount, or even if there's some variation, the variation should be fixed to maybe the job role, maybe the department. So if you there's a slight discrepancy between engineers and, let's say, the marketing folk and maybe the design folk at the same level, maybe some, I don't know, 10%, 12% discrepancy somewhere in between. It's still transparent, right? So you know that if you're at the same level with someone who was hired at the same time with you, you're more or less taking home the same amount of money. You don't need to lie to each other about. Right. So you just want to have that transparency. I think that it makes for a more healthy work environment. Um, it's one less thing for you to worry about, because usually when you start to work at an organization, there are things you have to worry about. There are rules, ethics and stuff that you need to worry about. But I think that what you take home shouldn't be something that you need to worry about, that you need to consistently contest, or wake up every morning and ask yourself, am I at the top of the food chain, or are others outperforming me or outbidding me, or things like that. So yeah, I think I'll stop there when it comes to the salary conversation.
Thank you so much, Robert, for the session. Thank you so much for addressing most of these concerns, especially when it comes to data scientists pretty much aspiring or looking for a job, understanding technical recruiters in many sense. Now, we put out the request for registrants to ask some questions, and I'm going to be asking those questions and hopefully getting the feedback from you. And these are I've pretty much filtered the most relevant ones, especially in terms of your talk, so that it makes things a lot more easier. Now, I think
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, so can you hear me now? Okay, great. So I was saying, the question was, what are the major skills that a data scientist needs to land his first job? Okay, Stephen, please repeat the question. I think for some reason.
all right. So repeating the question once again is of what this person asks: what do you think are the skills a data science newbie needs to land his first job or her first job?
Okay, so that's a good question, and it's an interesting question. I don't think but a data scientist is actually a software engineer whose main problem is dealing with data. So what we see a lot of the time is that, let's say, new end of data science not having a proper understanding of software, or of software engineering. So simple things like data structures. If you take a Python route to learning data science, you will encounter various data structures, dictionaries, lists. And what they do is, on their own, you don't come out and say, I am a data structure specialist or things like that. There are algorithms that rely on a fundamental understanding of these data structures, particularly because what you're trying to do is optimize for speed. And if you understand what's going on with the data structures, you can't pick the best ones. So when it comes to data science, you're actually dealing with typically massive amounts of data that you're trying to, let's say, wrangle in different shapes and form. You're trying to extract some insights from them, but depending on the organization, even you might be involved in finding new and better algorithms to help you make certain predictions on the type of data that you're dealing with. So I'll say having the fundamental knowledge of let's say computer science is what you should hold dear. So while there are specific tools that we leverage, NumPy, Pandas, for example, it's pretty useless if the potential new hire doesn't understand why you're making use of certain data structures over others. So I think focus on your computer science knowledge.
All right, I'm just going to go into the next question, next very relevant question, in fact. So, and this person asks a really good question. It's how much does a person need to know technically to be considered job ready? And the second question that actually follows through is how many projects does one need to have worked on, as well to be considered job ready, in quote.
Okay, so that's a good question. And I would say that it depends on the individual who's hiring you. So there are usually two routes that are open to recruiters. One route is to say, I want someone who's ready to hit the road running immediately. Special forces type of person, this person sleeps with his bags packed, one for hot weather, one for cold weather, one for tropics and things like that. And you can wake this person up and drop him in any environment and he's ready to run. Usually those people cost more, they come in at a higher level. The other alternative is for recruiters to say, I'm willing to hire someone who's uh, more entry level, has some foundational knowledge, and we can let that person work under the guidance of someone who's more advanced, and we can also provide training. Now, you can't necessarily tell what approach the recruiter is willing to take, so sometimes you need to ask. So the recruiter, I think, first of all, will look at let's say, your resume or your profile and decide for themselves how much work they need to put into you and whether or not they're willing to put that amount of effort into you. But typically, good job description should state what the basics are that you should already know, and then they might, for instance, have a section for nice to have. So nice to have is if we see two individuals, one with the nice to haves and one without, we will take the one with the nice to have. But if all of the applicants don't have the nice to haves, then we will just deal with them that way, and we'll still go ahead and recruit them. But what it also means is that the you need to meet the minimum specification, and that minimum specification needs to be in the job description. So it's not always cast in stone that everyone who's going to be jobs a data scientist must know A, B, and C. The recruiter will specify what it is that they want, depending on the environments that you're going to be working in, depending on the tools that you're going to be working in, and all of those things. For me specifically, if I'm hiring anyone, I usually have a sort of assessment sheet where I then say, for the job that we want this individual to do, where we either expect him to know or we expect her to know A, B, and C, or we want the person to have a basic minimum of A and we will train in B and C. So leading on, how many projects should you have? Again, it's really subjective. It depends on what you're learning. If you're learning data manipulation, for instance, data rank, you might have a different set of projects that illustrate that from if you're learning data visualization, for instance. And data visualization will be a completely different set of projects from if you're learning data augmentation, or if you're trying to illustrate your knowledge of statistics, there'll be different projects. So depending on the skills that you have, some projects might illustrate one or more skills, while some might not have any overlap at all. So it's all up to you, really.
That's right. It's all up to you. Thank you so much, Robert, for answering that. And we just have two more questions that are very vital. Unfortunately, we can't equal right now, but two more questions I think that are very vital and will prove useful to our audience as well. Now, this person asks, you know, I interview questions basic than complex. And what are the interview questions for a typical data science role? Like what are those interview questions like? Pretty much, do you have a glimpse? Can you provide the audience a glimpse to what they should expect in an interview, the questions, or things like that? Yes.
Okay, great. So again, it depends on the recruiter. For me, for example, I can give you um, an expo and say, let's say I'm hiring for a very specific task, and I happen to know that there's a curriculum that teaches that particular task. So, for example, let's say that the Udacity Data Science Nano degree teaches a particular skill that I'm interested in hiring for. Usually, the baseline for me would be to go on LinkedIn and me essentially speed through that process. Because if you've got the nano degree, then it means that you took the course. And if you took the course, it also means that diseases. So the reason why I would do that is it's a similar task, a completely unrelated domain. So even if I don't get the results that I want from you, it's still an academic exercise. It's not something I'm going to take and put back into the company if things don't work out. And then if things do work out, then when you come in, you'll work on the actual medical images. And the interesting thing again also is that during the interview, I might not even have the legal leeway to show you those. It's probably not. I give the task, I let you ask questions and stuff. I go off. We reconnect at maybe 4 p.m. to see how far you've gone working on the task, and then we agree on the submission time and then go off again. So again, it's subjective. It depends on the recruiter.
All right, thank you so much, Robert, for answering that. So now, on the very last note, in fact, and I think this is really an interesting question. So this person asks, what would be a certain turn-off for a recruiter when hiring a data personnel? What's like the typical turn-off you see on people's resume, or people's behavior during interviews or before interviews and things like that?
Yeah, that's a very good one, and this isn't just specific to data scientists, it's specific to individuals in general. When you hire people, you want to hire people that you can trust. And trust comes in many forms. One is that you can trust the person to work, to have ethical behavior and things. But the other is that you can person to commit time for a reasonable period. So what I see nowadays, which we didn't see in the past really, is people who want to work for really short periods of time and then switch organizations. So if I go to LinkedIn and I see that you've had, for example, 3 jobs in 1 year. You spent 3 months at one place, you spent 4 months at another place, you spent another 3 months in the last place, and now you're looking to get another job. It's, for me, a turn off, because what it means is even if you're good and you do take the job, I'm going to be going through this same amount of stress in another 3 months. That's what it means. So I usually tell people that from the perspective of the employee who's just switching job, it's for them, it's nothing personal. It's, oh, okay, I got another job, I'm moving. Nice working with you, bye. But from the perspective of the recruiter, it could be a whole lot of work. Some people spend weeks preparing to, interview people, and those weeks cost money. No matter how people try to look at it, time is money. So if I'm going to be hiring someone new every 3 months, it's just too expensive. There's the cost of recruitment, there's the cost of onboarding, there's the cost of even training the person to be useful. So seeing people who don't spend enough time in an organization before they move is a serious turnoff. I think another turnoff is people just having the wrong attitude to work. So, like, people, I haven't personally had that experience, but I'm aware. Like, some people have told me they're recruiting people, and those people just have a completely negative attitude towards things. All of their questions are about what happens if this goes wrong, what happens if that goes wrong, what happens if this goes wrong. And they're like, this person is already attitude, and I don't want to have to deal with that. And I don't think that that's a cultural fit for us. So usually employers talk about cultural fit. And the interesting thing is, if you're a very good cultural fit, if you have the right attitude and things like that, even if you don't have all the necessary skills, employers are going to be willing to take a chance with you and say, we see that this person is willing to learn and this person has the right attitude, we'll take this person. But if you have all of the skills in the world, but the attitude is just wrong, nobody wants to have to deal with that. It's a whole lot easier to get the right person and to train the right person than to get the wrong person and then to try and get the person to change his or her attitude towards people and towards work and things like that. So, yeah, I think that that's a sufficient number of examples for turnoffs.
All right. I think this has been a wonderful session with you, Robert. Thank you so much for answering the questions. We typically don't have like extremely relevant questions in the chat. These are very basic questions we can always answer for the audience. But thank you once again for coming on the live event today. We appreciate you all taking your time, and thank you so much. So thank you so much, viewers. Just please stand by for the next session with Evangelist Michael, which will start pretty soon. Thank you.
Okay, it's been a pleasure. Bye. Hello, student. I'm good. Yes, reason one for the video, the other for
order for audio. Okay, no, okay. If that's the case, I can just let's see. All right, let's see. Which of this better for you? Better for you. Sorry, which one? All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of the Port Harcourt School of AI session for career data scientists. My name is Evangelist Michael Oden, and I am the Senior Data Loans to Go Limited. And today I'll be talking more on negotiation as a data scientist in Africa. I don't think it will be limited to just Africa, but yeah, I'll try to keep the context within what I'll be talking about to Africa and Nigeria more precisely, because I've not had to work in too many other African countries. But then again, you can always extract the context and apply to whatever other country you find yourself, and possibly whatever other industry you find yourself. I have been a finance data scientist I've been primarily a finance data scientist here, and that means I've had to build solutions mostly in the financial space, financial services space, and sorry, one second, please. Okay, that means I've had to build data products in the financial services space, particularly for banks and early startup fintechs. However, I'll be talking more around a general context of things, so you can always extract to oil and gas, insurance, software and IT, as well as other industries that you may be interviewing for or may be working in at the moment. So let's get right into it, right? When it comes to negotiation, a lot of people are afraid to talk about negotiating. A lot of people are afraid to talk about salaries. A lot of people are, what I'm earning, am I being underpaid, or am I paid fortunate enough to? Yeah, it's a bottleneck, right? I think it's just a gray area. Nobody wants to know, oh, you're earning more than you, or I'm earning less than you. But in the things, I believe it's one of the things. These discussions helped identify and then secondly, if what you're earning could be, if I would say, increased or reviewed. Yes, if I put that right, reviewed. So I'll just be talking around a lot of factors that affect negotiations and how you can use these factors to your advantage and help you get better salaries, and help you also help a company who probably wants to hire you, or the company you work with, where and why they you have to identify, am I of my career? Am I in the mid-level stages of my career, or am I in the senior level stages of my career? And what's early stage, right? Early stages, probably just left school. I understand the concepts of data science, and I'm willing to work up until about 1-2 years into your career. Probably 1 or 2 companies we've worked with, or a couple of projects you've done in data science. The job requirement as an early stage career science. Okay, hi. Okay, sorry for the break there. Okay, from where I stopped, we were talking about factors affecting negotiation, and I began talking about the career stages for the personal. That's your own personal evaluation of what level of your career you are at. I see a lot of scientists, or a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm early stage," and they have 10 years working experience. They still say at the early stage. So I'll just be clear. I'll just be a bit clear as to what early stage, mid, and senior stages are. Early stage, I believe, or I feel an early stage scientist would be someone who understands what techniques to use when it comes to a particular problem. And is it an optimization problem? Are you just optimizing a process? Are you building a classification model? And do you understand the type of classification models to use? Or are you trying to design a process using R or Python? I classify those as and then you have your mid-stage scientists. Early stage is anywhere between I just left school and 2 years. I've been working about 2 years in the data science field. And so mid-level scientist, a mid-level scientist will be someone who has a complete understanding of a lot of models and a lot of data science processes in business. He understands analysis, he understands machine learning, he understands deployment environments, and he knows how to put it all together into one seamless approach towards data science and deliver that as a result or as a product. That's a mid-level scientist. Then a senior scientist is someone who not only understands the models, but understands the processes around the business, as well as understands engineering, deployments, and then finally has learned how to train or manage other scientists who are new or mid-level. That's a senior scientist. So identifying which of these areas. So of course, a mid-level scientist would be anywhere between 2-3 years of your career and 4 years of your career. 2-3 years of your career and 4-5 years of your career. Then you have the senior scientists. The senior scientist would be anywhere between 4-5 years of your career going all the way up. A lot of companies rank it differently, right? And of course, senior takes the higher ranking with 4 or 5 years and above in data science. Data science on its own being fairly the full process of data science, and I'm talking about the analysis, the statistics, the mathematics, the business analytics and analysis, and then the machine learning, data engineering processes, all of that together, is pretty much what I'm calling data science, right? And this is all fairly new in today's industries. And a senior scientist should have an in-depth understanding of most of those processes, if not all. Yes. So identifying what stage you are in what I just explained will help you identify what should be your potential salary. If I'm going to be managing 5-10 junior data scientists, I don't expect to be collecting an amount that doesn't indicate that I am managing people. I'm not just managing people, I'm managing processes, because when things start to fail, I am the one who's I'm the one who's responsible for all of those failures. So I'm not just what I will want to earn or what I should earn at that point, I feel should now be an indication of the level I am, right? The second factor affecting negotiation is the career stage the company sees as a matching for your skill set. In consulting, we have these buckets, analyst, associate, senior associate, assistant manager, and manager, all the way up to director of data science. It's still unclear to me why the consulting companies decide to use these buckets for deciding a person's ability. But yes, they already have number of years of experience. I guess they use years of experience to try to put people within these buckets. And I would say for the data science field, it's difficult because it's difficult to actually put into this consulting buckets, because I could be a data scientist who has done 1 year of intense machine learning modeling and business analysis, very intense work. And just that 1 year alone could give me enough experience over someone who probably sat down and just did some Excel work as a data scientist over a period of time and has a year of experience. Right? We would not be on the same scale. We would be on the same scale. And of course, if we are not the same scale, I won't expect that whatever level, just because I have 1 year of experience and and another person has 1 year of experience, both of us be analysts, or we'll be put on the same analyst bucket, right? The job industry, or one of the beautiful things with the explosion and proliferation of IT is that it has opened up a lot of points of negotiation where people can enter into different aspects of the job market, and your experience level, not years of experience, your experience level can determine what you exactly would earn on the negotiation table. Whereas, so that's for consulting. Other companies now try to rearrange the data science field to look close to the software engineering field. So you have your junior scientist, your mid-level scientist, and your senior scientist, right? And you would see a lot of job descriptions like that, where you have a junior scientist job description, you have a mid-level scientist job description, and you have a senior scientist job description. And all of them, they're a bit separate or a bit different from themselves, but most of them all try to put some years of experience within each. So you have your junior with 1 to 3 years experience, you have your mid-level with 3 to 5 years experience, and then you have your senior 5+ years experience. So you need to identify what the company, besides identifying what your own personal career stage is, you need to identify what the company is looking for to help you know if you fit in. Are you going in from an early stage career to a junior role? Are you going in from a mid-career stage of your own self to a mid-level career role? Are you going in from senior to senior? Are you going in from mid-senior? Are you going in from junior to mid? You have to identify all of those. Before you start negotiating with the HR or whatever other manager is in charge of negotiating with you in your current company or in a company you're looking to move to. So you have your career stage personnel, you have your career stage company, just to recap. The third factor affecting negotiation is impact, right? If you listen closely, I also embedded impact into the career stage personnel and the career stage company. But the three, I'm just going to be talking about product out there. Are you building 5, 6, 10, supporting 5, 6, 10 data products that are working seamless to deliver impact? I would like to collect this amount of money. Something realistic, of course, right? So that's impact for you. Until you identify that, you'll just be sitting in the water and waiting for any offers that come your way, and you would never be able to identify how to push back with HR managers or other managers in the companies you may be applying to or that you are working currently in. Agreeably, there are a lot of companies who come to you and say, this is our budget. We have this budget for this role. And so take it or leave it. But I would tell you categorically, it's not always that as the case. The budgets are created, yes, but many times they can be adjusted. Many times they can be shifted to accommodate really good talent, really good people who the company feels will be more beneficial to helping push forward a lot of innovative ideas, as well as the current need for the data scientist. So once you can identify your impact, it's a good point where you can come to the table and negotiate with a hiring manager. The next factor affecting negotiation is reporting structure and hierarchy. Now, some companies would just have a director of science, and then you have a lot of early stage scientists or a lot of junior scientists, and he or she will be tasked with bringing up all of these junior data scientists. I still struggle to find a reason for why a company would decide on that hierarchy of a director of science, and then you just have all these juniors. Some companies would say, we'll go the whole stretch of having three, or all the levels. So you have your junior, your mid-level, your senior, and then your director or principal scientist. And you have to identify what the reporting structure is, right? Who you report to. Are you a junior scientist that's reporting to a mid-level scientist or a senior scientist? Or are you reporting to the director or the principal scientist? That will help you identify the level of work, the impact you will have, the level of work you'll be required to do, and the impact that level of work will have on the company. So let's take the case where you are reporting as a junior scientist to a director of science. It's going to, now that a lot of the work is going to be on you. You're basically the ground, you're basically the foot soldier doing all of the work and maintaining all of the systems, while pretty much the director sits on identifying the business case and the management of the teams, environments, deployments, and all of that. So you have to identify, if I'm going to be a foot soldier, then I have to be paid salary that's going to keep me happy. Because at the end of the day, I have to get compensation that doesn't keep me stressed. For each time I look at my bank account, for each time I get my salary notification, I should be happy that I'm working in a place that cherishes me, or that helps me, that's keeping my pocket happy, I'd say. And don't be ashamed to use, don't be afraid or ashamed to use keeping your pocket happy and from a totally monetary standpoint. Don't be afraid or ashamed to use that, right? Ultimately, you want to look out for yourself. You want to look out for your career. You want to look out for your health. You want to look out for your future. I see a lot of early starters message me and try to ask evangelists, what should be my entry salary? What should be my entry negotiation point? And I always try to tell them, don't make an offer first. Allow the company give you the offer. Then you evaluate what the company is offering based on what they're also asking you to do. So if they're offering you something, then wait for what they're asking you to do and then measure it to see if it's worth it. When you're trying to negotiate also with companies, don't be afraid to message seniors that you feel could help you in identifying what a good negotiation point is and what a bad negotiation point is. I had a little issue earlier. I wouldn't state the company. I wouldn't state any other thing apart from that. Yeah, I took some of those offers on a lower scale, not identifying what my capacity was and what exactly I was going to do. Luckily, while in there, I was able to renegotiate my salary, and it got to a really good standing point where I knew I was going to be comfortable with the salary as well as the work I was doing. you don't want to get yourself in that dilemma, because you might put yourself in that kind of situation and lose the trust for which, or things might just spiral out of your control, right? Things might just spiral out of your control. So you want to make sure your negotiation point at the beginning of your career, at the beginning of any role, is indicative of the level of work you're going to be doing, and you are comfortable with what comes to you at the end of the day, right? Put into consideration where you're going to, put into consideration where you're coming from, put into consideration the factors that surround where you live. A scientist who works in Silicon Valley will definitely not, a scientist who works in Nigeria, Lagos, for instance, would definitely not earn as much as a scientist who works in Silicon Valley, right? But who works and lives in Silicon Valley. But that has nothing to do with the impact of a scientist who works and lives in Nigeria and the impact of a scientist who works and lives in Silicon Valley, right? Identify where you stand, where you come from, and boldly request for what you want from the companies you are either currently working with or you wish to work for or with. And with that, you will be very comfortable, I'd say, or quite comfortable looking for your the next big thing while making impact in the company. And it becomes a thing of joy for each time you have to wake up in the morning to go to work. You touch your computer and write those codes happy. You look at the data, and when the stress of all the data cleaning comes to you, you're okay because you know what you're earning. And when you have to finally deploy those models, you look at the environments, your deployment environments, and know, I'll be able to manage this stuff through the timeline if the models are going to be out there. And of course, when the bugs come, because they will come, you'll be happy to deal with them and clear things out for yourself. So I guess with those 4 points I mentioned 5 actually, but I didn't state the last one. I'll just run through them. Career stage, your personal career stage. Identify your personal career stage where you fall, early, mid, or senior. Identify the career stage the company has positioned you or wants to position you. Is it in consulting where you have analyst, associate, senior associate, assistant manager, or manager? Or is it others that you have a junior or mid-level or senior roles? Then number 3, impact. What kind of impact will your role have in the data products that are going to be delivered? Then 4, your reporting structure and hierarchy. Who exactly is above you? Who do you report your work to? Is it someone who is in data science or someone who is in another department entirely? Are you reporting to someone who is in marketing or someone who is in HR? Or are you reporting to a direct scientist above you? And then the next is economic factors, your environment, the cost of living of where you stay, the cost of transportation, and ultimately you first. You want to look out for your career next. You want to look out for your health, and you want to look out for your future. I mean, your future, I mean, family, I mean, your environment. Do you have a PS5 in your house? No, don't take that. Yeah, but those are things you want to look out for, those things for yourself. Identify if you're comfortable with what it is that you are being compensated with. Yeah.
Right, thank you so much, Vangelis, for such insightful session. We had some breaks, but then again, I think the participants will be able to get the context of the entire conversation. Thank you so much once again for that. So, what's I think you've stated 5 points, and I think what's the first thing that should come into a participant's mind when a technical recruiter asks them, so how much should they expect when it comes to salary? Is it a question they should answer, or what's something you think they should say?
So, for negotiation, there is a common saying: whoever gives the first prize loses. Right? So, this is from a totally from a negotiation point of view, right? And so it's always it's always a battle of who should give a price first. Ultimately, I would always ask the recruiters to let me know what the company has budgeted for that role, right? Because you don't want to short sell yourself. You want to know what the company thinks of you, of that role. Yes, what the company thinks of that role then helps you identify, okay, if a company is lowballing on a particular role that you feel is very important to operations, then it's possible that they don't understand why they're hiring for that role, or they don't understand the capacity whoever is coming in is going to, the amount of work the person coming in is going to do. And this is why you have to talk with people who may be senior to you to identify what exactly is comfortable salary. And it's okay to say, okay, now that you've given me your offer, I'll go back and think about it. You don't have to give an offer on the spot. You don't have to tell them what you're expecting until they have given you what is potentially a budget for that role, right? So no matter how big the technical recruiter or how nice he or she sounds, don't give an answer to that question first. Let them give an answer. Then you can come back with a negotiation. And if it's fine with you, you can just go ahead with it. If not, then you can push back.
All right. Thank you so much, Vangelis, for your time once again. Thank you so much, viewers, for still sticking with us to this time. And we'll just go for a very short break until the next speaker comes in. So if you have any question for Vangelis, you can always reach out to him. Vangelis, what's your Twitter? I think, or we can always send it as a post-event email to people who register. So definitely you can check it out. You also check the description, and the links in the description will link to their social media profile there. Thank you once again. Thanks, Vangelis.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much, everybody. All right.
All right, Vangelis. Be in touch.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is, let me start by introducing myself, then we get into the Q&A. So, unlike the previous speaker, I have no slides. I'm just going to talk through a couple of things. Quick introduction of myself is, my name is Olalekan Eleshin. Nigerian, I'm a father, I'm a professional. I think that's basically, the brief introduction. So I think today I'm going to be talking about my career and then open it up for questions. And I listened to the previous speaker, so lots of insights. I even learned quite a few things. I started my career back in Nigeria right after NYSC in 2013. So I graduated from Federal University of Agriculture as a computer scientist. So that's the reason why I had to stress that is because no matter what the background you're coming from, no matter the course you study, it's really important where you're going to. For me, when I started competing in the industry back in Nigeria back then people were like, did you go to Ife? No, I didn't go to Ife. I didn't go to any interesting school. I went to Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta to be precise. So then after NYSC, I think I served in Lokoja, Kogi State. I got a job at one of these leading startups in Nigeria back then. I wouldn't call it, I don't know if it's a startup or not. If someone wants to ask about the name, I would definitely mention the name afterwards. I think I can just mention it, Terragon Group. And then I started with the expectation of, I want to do data science, I want to do machine learning and things around it. And the expectations were quite, for me, that was what I expected. And that was what I went into the interview for. And those were the conversations I had during the interview. And, but prior to that, during NYSC, I'd already started practicing with writing a couple of R, doing a couple of things with Hadoop. I think I did a couple of things with Spark, Apache Spark as well, which was big data processing at that point in time. Then R was the leading technology back then, I think in 2013, 2014, with regards to doing a lot of statistical analysis, data science, before Python overtook it, and with the advent of the machine learning frameworks, scikit-learn, TensorFlow, Theano back then PyTorch. But then the expectations when I resumed the job was, I'm going to do data science, I'm going to do all that. So what happened was, in the first 3 months, I had a conversation with my manager back then that, what's up, what's happening? It doesn't look like I'm doing what I think I was hired to do. And then he told me that, because we're not there yet, a lot, yada, 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 and things like that. And it gave me a really, really candid feedback, which is, like, other people are delivering, and if you don't deliver, we need to have a different conversation. So I thought to myself, what do I need to do to adapt? Because I started with the expectation of, I'm going to be doing data science, I'm going to be doing machine learning, I'm going to be doing a lot of things. And at that point in time, it turned out that the industry was not yet ready, or the industry was not ready in that direction. So I had to switch a bit, start writing PHP, Node.js, Scala, and those 3 months because I think I had 3 months left of my probation period. But I think were the most intense 3 months in my career so far, because I had to learn about 3 or 4 programming languages to be proficient. And that was that, and that was what I decided. That was when my career picked up. For the following year, I think March, I got an opportunity as a data science engineer at Venture Garden Group. I think Venture Garden Group is quite popular with the new things that they're doing now, green investments and things like that. They're really popular. But then I got an opportunity there as a data science engineer, probably a data engineer or machine learning engineer in this current time. And then built a couple of machine learning use cases, and presented a couple of them to government parastatals. What I learned was the manager I had back then was really pushing us to improve ourselves and then go above and beyond. And that was where I really built my sort of machine learning skills. I wouldn't call them data science, but machine learning skill at that point in time, using big data frameworks like I said, my Apache Spark, then lots of things with what's the thing called Python, scikit-learn, random forest, all the assembled trees. These classical machine learning approach is not the deep learning ones. But then for me, I think I want to quickly get into the question and answer session. For me, I really loved to use Matplotlib because it was really simple. And if you're a Python person, you probably heard about Matplotlib for plotting graphs in maybe your Jupyter notebooks or maybe on your laptop directly. But then I really love Matplotlib. It was really easy to use. But my manager back then told me that, yeah, you understand, think about the consumer of the analytics that you're presenting. And that's an interesting lesson for anybody that is going into data science or in the data world. You have to think about who's going to consume the analytics, because the outcome of your work is analytics in whatever form you want to call it. It could be a data product. It could be some charts and dashboard in Tableau. It could be something in your Jupyter notebook that you want to present. Whatever you're coming up with, the outcome of what you want to deliver, one of the outcomes of the things you deliver is analytics. And who's the consumer of that analytics? Is it a fellow engineer or a peer of yours? Is this to management? And that helps you to tell a story about the analytics that you want to present. Excuse me. So I really learned that and learned how to present analytics very, very well, to tell story about analytics, which was really good. Interestingly, I had an opportunity to present to, I think the senior special advisor to the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Shibaju, at one night about rice sustainability in Nigeria. And one of the things that helped me a lot was the lesson I learned that who's consuming that analytics. And in there, even though I was really technical, someone else, one of the people in management team, picked up the presentation and turned it around in such a way that even the special advisor understood the analytics better than what I was explaining, because I was really, at that point, I was getting technical. And then I learned another lesson that I need to learn how to speak business language, even though I'm presenting analytics. Analytics is not that, I know how to talk about the machine learning and the stats and the models that we've created, but being able to communicate it effectively in business terms. And from there, I moved to Conga and then moved to Germany, and then things progressed. But one of the things I would like to touch on, which is people talk about currently, is the salary, how to discuss remuneration. So I really started low. I think my salary was really low. I'm not sure I would recommend anybody to start at that point in time. But if you're going to start with it, something low, be aware of where you're going to, and be aware of what you want to, the salary you want to command. I would also I can mention names. It's fine if I mention names. So before leaving Venture Garden Group, I also had an offer from eHealth, which is in Kano, but it's a pretty international NGO company. And when I had the interview, I had the first call, second call, and the person told me back then, the recruiter told me back then that they interviewed 70 people and I was number one. This is not to blow my trumpet, but I think that one of the things I learned is that is from Jack Welch, which was the former CEO and chairman, I think also chairman of General Electric. He said, be number one or number two in your field or get out. I would say that if you're going to go into any of this, if you're going to take machine learning, data science, and any of these things as one of the things that you want to do as a career, make a decision to be number one or number two, and do whatever it takes within what you can do to be number one or number two. And that's really important. That's one of the things I would love to stress. Have that desire and have that will and that implementation strategy on your own to be number one or number two, because that's where you want to be. One of the things that COVID has taught us so far is that the world is now a global. We used to say the world is a global village, but now it's it's actually a global village enabled by technology. That means that if you're applying for a role, let's say 4 billion other people can apply for the same role. And what technology has also enabled in this point in time is remote work. So Nigerian companies don't necessarily need to hire somebody in Nigeria. They can hire somebody outside the country, maybe in another country that person performs better. So you have to think about it as, who am I competing with? Am I competing with what's the thing called Nigerians only? Or am I competing with Africans only? Am I competing with the world as a whole? I would say you start by competing with the world as a whole, because recruiters can now access talent in Europe, Middle East, Asia, Africa, Americas. Think about it in that regard. And because most people are 100% remote right now, they would hire talent in different directions. I think that's it so far from me. Now I want to welcome questions with regards to how things progress for me. So if you have any questions now, I think I'm ready to take on the questions. I think I've spoken a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Olalekan, for the very, very useful session. And just before we go straight to the chats and answer participants' question, some people dropped some questions during the registration, so I'm just going to ask you those, and I think we can go on.
Yep.
So, here's the first question. How do you make your resume stand out in the data science field? How do you make your resume stand out in this data science field?
Yeah. Good, excellent question. Thanks a lot. So I think that I will tell this as a story. So in 2014, when I was about to change jobs, I spoke with the person I was going to work with in the new company back then, and he told me a couple of things. He said that even as a data person, you're primed to be data driven. And that, for me, I first struggled to understand what that meant in terms of being really technical and what that really meant, because I felt it's only consultants and people that like to sell things as you say, oh, we have to be data driven and yada, yada, yada. So he asked me that, what do I measure with regards to my accomplishments as a professional? And that's a really interesting question, because what I've realized is that up until then, I'd never measured everything that I was doing. I wasn't even measuring. I was just saying, oh, I built this, I did that, and yada, yada, yada. But in reality, data scientists or the data science field is looking for people that help to improve business processes or help to improve business outcomes, not necessarily business processes, business outcomes. And then what people would look at in that regard when it comes to your resume is how have you contributed to business outcomes in the past? And how do you measure that? So as a data scientist or someone going into that field, you have to be able to structure your CV or communicate your resume or your CV in a data-driven way. So measure the business outcomes you've been able to achieve or enable through your skills and your participation in projects. So if you build, so I remember back, I think a Venture Garden Group, I also wrote about it. And this is another project we worked on. So we had the business had one stream, a business unit that was into education technology, then EduTech. And at that point, they opened up for online masters with ABU, Ahmadu Bello University. And we were trying to get people to convert, but we didn't know how to. So we partnered with the business unit and we started working with them and built a simple machine learning algorithm that was able to predict the probability of someone converting. And on test sets, it achieved about, let's say, 92% accuracy. And what we did was we communicated that to the CEO and then communicated to the business guys. And then they asked us, how can they deploy this? And then we hacked a couple of things together. I wasn't so much into model deployment back then. And then we helped them, told them the kind of criteria was really manual kind of criteria to use. So what we saw was a 600% growth in conversion rate. That means people that actually came onto the website and signed up for the program. Taking that, I made sure that reflected on my resume because I was leading the project back then. I made sure it reflected on my resume. So if I'm having a conversation about data science at this point in time, I have a reference, something to refer to say, when I participated on this project, I built something simple along with the team, and then it resulted into 600% growth. That's how I structure my resume. I talk about data. I'm very, very data driven when it comes to things that I achieve. Also, when I was at Conga, I built a simple project as well. And I think in the first 3 months, it saved about $119 million. Not 90 million naira. No, I'm talking about 990 million naira. So those things, I make sure it reflects on my resume. And sometimes it takes, I think I would recommend that data scientists or people going into the data science space should take time to get the hard numbers about their contributions on projects, because that is what is going to sell you. It's not about you being able to write TensorFlow, PyTorch, and all those things. in most enterprises around the world that I've seen and people that I've spoken to, data still resides in Excel spreadsheets. Data still resides in the thinkable form that you can think about. And what people care about, people that want to hire data scientists care about, is if I bring this person in, how is this going to help me tweak my business outcome? And which leads me to one of the most interesting definitions of data science that I like by this guy called Bill Schmatzel. He says data science is about finding the predictors of better performance for business. I'm trying to paraphrase. And if you think about your contribution, look at how you contribute and how you can improve predictors of performance for a particular business, and make sure that that reflects in your resume. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. We just have 2 more questions before we go on to the live chat and answer the participants' question. So, so how was the first interview? Simple. And how was the first interview like as a data scientist?
Let me think about it. So my first interview as a data scientist was when I got a job at Venture Garden Group. It was really intense because the questions I was asked, I remember the guy is now the person that questioned me, that interviewed me, really asked a lot of the questions. He's not the founder of Ribi Finance. It's Abolore. I like what he's doing. He interviewed me and he was really interested. He really wanted to know how I thought about business problems, not about technical problems. And I think this is where a lot of times technical people, machine learning engineers, data scientists get it wrong sometimes. And I also got it wrong. I wouldn't say it's, at least now I've learned, is that we talk in terms of technical things a lot, but you have to focus on, and my mouth was really dry. At some point, they had to give me water. But then I would say that you have to reflect in terms of business terms. So understand metrics that matter to the business that the company that you're interviewing for. So if it's a internet consumer business, they will probably be considering metrics around conversion rates. If it's an e-commerce, as an example, they'll probably be thinking about number of things that people add to carts and things like that. So understand the fundamental business metrics of the company you're interviewing for, and tailor your conversation around those things. But my mouth was really dry. I will say my mouth was really dry.
Surely your mouth is even dry now. I mean,
exactly.
What an irony. Anyways, that's fine. Thank you so much for answering that. Now, on the last note, I'm just going to pick out one solid question here. We'll head to the. So, okay, I think this is a lot less technical and a lot more about what we've been talking about when it comes to spending more of your time in the business space. So, this person asks, coding aside, how can one have great data intuition? How can you develop data intuition as you go on in this field? Is it through experience, or are there pretty much things that you can do?
That's a very excellent question. Data intuition. Let me think about it very well. To another story about everything, data intuition. Think about measuring everything, and think about the outcome if you measure something, the outcome you want to change, outcome you want to achieve. I think that's about the way to develop data intuition. So what I did as a product manager for an internal AI platform was that I measured everything along the way. So developing data intuition is not necessarily you don't have to be a data scientist. You could be anybody, but think about how to measure things. So if you want to go from point A to point B, how do I measure if I get to point B? What's the indicator of when I get to point B? And data intuition, the foundation of it starts from the statistics that we do in elementary science, which is integrated science. I think integrated science is secondary school, which is formulating the scientific method of solving problems, formulate an hypothesis, come up with some interesting use case, and look at how to test it as quickly as possible and iterate. That's the way to develop data intuition. It's not science. It's not rocket science. It's just the scientific way of solving problems. I come up with an hypothesis. I test my hypothesis. Check if it's valid or not. If it's valid, proceed to test another one. If it's not valid, I revise my hypothesis. Go back. That's how to develop data intuition.
All right, thank you so much for answering that. Now I think we'll go into the live chat and we'll answer one question, just one question from Shandin. I'm sorry, I didn't I'm not pronouncing that too well. But this person asks, how important is a master's degree in data science, especially when you're looking for a data science role?
Okay. Yeah. Excellent question. Personally, I would say it's very important. I would even say that a PhD is really important. However, knowledge has been democratized right now. So with MOOCs and things like that, people can really learn online and build all those capabilities on their own. But the starting point when the idea of data scientist as a career came out of people, research scientists, PhDs, MSc holders. And then the reason why it was like that is because when you're doing your master's thesis, you focus a lot on data collection and doing a lot of data wrangling, and that was why. So you don't necessarily, at this point in time, I'm not sure a master's degree is so much of a big thing if you want to do data science at this time in the industry. But way back then, maybe in 2013, 2014, for someone to be considered data scientist in the global space, person needed some level of masters, because then you would have gone through the academia, the part of doing a lot of data analysis with the academia, and that's the foundation of data science. That's how we started statistics and all those things. But now I'm not so sure if it's really needed. However, if I were to be hiring a data scientist for my team, I would really look out for someone that has some academic background, maybe a master's degree, or someone that's done that at BSc and did a lot of statistics.
All right, I think that wraps it up. There are no more questions from any participants. Of course, we're going to be sending the links for you to connect with Olalekan and the post-event email. If you missed that, if you want to connect with him, he's on Twitter, he's also on LinkedIn and so forth. So thank you so much, Olalekan, once again for your time and for talking us through your career journey, as well as answering these questions that we believe are vital to the growth of our audience here. Thank you so much once again.
I would love to touch on one thing before I go. So I think I didn't talk about salary.
Okay.
And I think it's a lot of things something that a lot of people want to. For salary, I think I mentioned it. If you start small, but then lots of people I talk to, they tell me that I like money a lot. I'm not Igbo, but I like money because I'm from Ijebu. And the reason thank you. So the reason for this is that when you want to negotiate your salary, if you are data driven and your CV reflects being data driven, you can ask for anything. So I remember before leaving Nigeria, one of the companies that I interviewed with, and then this was in Nigeria. This was a Nigerian company, and they told me they were going to pay me a certain amount. I told them, and I'm going to say the figure. I told them that no, I don't think I want to take that. I want you to pay me 10 million naira per annum. That is gross, without. And anytime I told someone that, people were like, "What? That's a lot." I'm like, "No. If you look at my resume and look at what I'm bringing, it's it's comparative. So you have to measure what you're expecting with what I'm telling you." And then we had a lot of back and forth. And then I think the vice president of hiring, the person that was leading the entire hiring for that company, it was an enterprise, big company in Nigeria, had to call me and tried to negotiate with me that, Lekon, because the team you're joining and yada yada. I said, yeah, I know the team, but this is what I'm going to earn. And if you cannot pay me, then look for someone else. And that's, I think, be a very, very stern negotiator and be flexible. Know your value in the market. That's basically what I want to say about that. And just know your value in the market. And that has stuck with me till now. Even here in the foreign land where I'm black, and we probably think, oh, they don't pay back black people that much. I really ask for top-notch salary. Yep, I think that should be my fine.
Oh, perfect. Yes, definitely know your value. I mean, that's something vital I've taken from it. And of course, just to add, it's all about once you increase your value, you can of course increase your how much you can command as well. Just judging from what you said so far. Thank you so much once again, Olalekan, for your time, and viewers, thank you so much for showing up, and please stay safe during this time. Connect once again. You can connect with others. Then you receive a post email. You receive a post event email from us, so that you can follow up with the speakers as well as some vital points they've made. Thank you so much once again. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Please stay safe.